Let's talk about the mobile home buying process in 9 steps. Disclaimer here, this process that we'll review is specific to buying mobile homes in parks only. Let's start with step 1. You're going to apply for financing and supply the documents that might have been requested of you in order to receive what's called a pre-qualification letter. This will let you and your agent know, if you're working with one, how much you may qualify for and what your rate, terms, and payment could be. Could be meaning we're talking about estimates. Now, some lenders, like 21st Mortgage, for example, won't give you a pre-qualification letter. They'll require that you already have a mobile home picked out before you apply. Now, we're going to take a slight detour here and talk about an important point when it comes to submitting documents to a lender or broker. The easiest way to make sure your documents are approved and not rejected are to first send exactly what has been asked and to send those documents as PDFs. If you can't send them as PDFs, you can take pictures, but those pictures must show the full document, top, bottom, and all sides, and all pages. A lot of frustration can be avoided if you follow this cardinal rule. If you don't, your documents will be rejected and you'll have to resubmit them until you get them right. Because this is so important, let's go through some examples or reasons for documents to be rejected. Let's say, for instance, you have a bank statement that includes 4 pages. Now, me as a loan officer, I know it includes 4 pages because on page 1, it says page 1 of 4. But instead of sending all pages, you send only the first 3 because the 4th is a blank page. Your document will be rejected. Let's say you take a picture of your pay stub with your finger covering some of the text and then you've zoomed in only on the pay portion instead of showing the full document, top to bottom, all sides. Your document will be rejected. Let's say I, as your loan officer, ask you to request a zero balance letter from your credit card company, but instead of sending that letter, you send your credit card statement, which shows your balance at 25 cents. Your document will be rejected. So, please remember this cardinal rule. Send exactly what has been asked for and send those documents as PDFs. If you can't send them as PDFs, take clear pictures of the full document showing the top, the bottom, all sides, and include all pages. Now let's move back to the process, starting with step 2. Once you find a mobile home, you'll need to apply for park approval. And at that time, you need to also ask the park what your move-in costs will be. Typically, parks will require a security deposit as well as first and last month's lot rent. In step 3, you'll need to sign a purchase agreement. We recommend you also get a home inspection, which is where an inspector will review the inside and outside of the home and let you know about any potential repair issues the home may have. This is optional. No one will require you to get an inspection, but it is a very good idea to get one. Typical costs for an inspection range between $350 and $475 here in Michigan. Moving on to step 4. If you're working with a broker like us here at Midwest Mobile Home Loans, once you've signed a purchase agreement, you'll want to make sure this agreement, signed by you and the seller, is provided to your broker so they can send your file to a lender who will then review it and then send your broker what's called a conditional approval letter if you meet the lender's requirements. Your broker will then send that letter to you for review. The conditional approval letter may list additional documents or information that the lender will require before they'll fully approve your loan. In step 5, once we or your broker receives your conditional approval, we'll submit an order for an appraisal. Now, an appraisal is not the same thing as a home inspection. An appraisal is where an appraiser will determine the value or worth of the home. The lender requires an appraisal is done. The cost of that here in Michigan is $365 through an appraisal company called DataComp. You'll have to pay for this out of pocket. It can't be rolled into your loan. At this point, we'll also verify employment for any folks on the application who are working, and any documents or information required by the lender will need to be sent and approved by the lender. In step 6, once all documents or information required by the lender have been approved, in addition to the appraisal being completed and approved by the lender will give what's called a clear to close. This basically means they'll put together the final set of paperwork called closing documents you'll need to sign to finalize your loan. These documents are generally released within no more than 3 business days. You'll need to work with your agent and settlement company if you have them to schedule closing, which is where you and the seller will sit down and sign your closing documents. Instructions and details on what you need for closing will be given to you by your loan officer. You'll also need to let the park know about your closing date so you can coordinate your lease signing with them. In step 7, you'll attend closing, where you and the seller will sign your closing documents and give any additional items you and the seller were told to bring for closing. After you receive your copy of the closing documents, you'll need to schedule a telephone interview if that's something required by your lender. In step 8, once your lender receives all the signed closing documents and any additional items which might have been required, they'll fund the loan, which basically means they'll finalize the loan. This typically happens within no more than 3 business days. This is where the seller actually get their funds. In step 9, after the loan funds, the seller is officially paid, and then you are given the keys to your new home. Congrats, homeowner. You did it.